Hi, this is Stacie Orrico, and you are listening to the first of 3 podcasts from me.
Hi, Stacie. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. At the age of 12, you were discovered, and you had a gold-selling debut album when you were 14. 4 years later, you had traveled the world supporting your second album, and you'd sold more than 3 million albums or something crazy like that. How does someone who is just 18 handle something like that?
You know, it's very difficult. I think that no matter what's going on in your life, how crazy or how not crazy, it's like, unless you have a foundation of like really healthy, strong relationships and just, something solid to build that career on top of, you're going to fall apart because the schedule is so crazy. You have so many people pulling at you from all sides. And so by the end of the last record, I was really, really burnt out. And it wasn't because I don't have an amazing family and great friends. I do. I just hadn't had time to really invest in that and learned how to utilize that yet. And so it did become really hard when I kind of allowed my career to become the priority and everything else kind of took a back seat to my work. And I had a very hard time handling it. But I think that, I've definitely made some changes over the last couple of years that have enabled me to have so much more freedom and enjoyment in what I'm doing here. And, I'm so grateful for the success that I have experienced thus far. I don't have any regrets. Like, I've loved my life, but there are some things, you just have to learn through experience.
So you took a bit of a break. You've been away for around 3 years. Is that right?
Yeah, a little less than, part of that time I was making this record. So really it was probably more like 2 years. But yeah, I finally just woke up one day and said, all right, I am traveling the world. I'm selling records. I get paid to do what I love. And that's all amazing. But I go home to my hotel room at the end of the night and like I'm by myself and I'm lonely and I miss my family. And I think it was really unhealthy for me as an artist to have my whole identity and my self-worth and my value wrapped up in my job and what I did in the entertainment industry rather than having my foundation be, outside of that. And so I was like, I have to have a life outside of the music business. This can't be everything because I don't know, honestly, how long, if I'll do this forever. I might not. So it was just, it was time to go home. Now I'm at the opposite side of that where I've realized that I could live in any like gross, dirty city in the whole world and work a terrible job. And as long as I had people with me that I love and that I can laugh with and who, love me exactly the same on a day where I'm on MTV or a day where I'm baking gross cookies in the kitchen or something, it's like just so good to have that balance.
So you feel you definitely found the balance now and you're ready to go out there and do your thing.
Yeah, the balance of my life is completely different. I feel like I'm approaching this album in a completely different way. And I just feel like a very different artist than honestly I was on the last album.
So when is Beautiful Awakening coming out?
At the end of August. I believe it's August 28th here. And I'm really excited. This is one that I've poured so much of myself into that there's a greater anticipation than I've ever felt. And also even like a little bit more nervousness.
Would you say you've been more involved in the whole recording process of Beautiful Awakening than any other previous albums?
Yeah, very much so. On the last all my previous projects, it was like me and a ton of producers and the label and the A&R staff and the management and everybody was speaking into the creative process. And that's why I was never able to make, the album that I've made now, which is probably, if I would have been in complete creative control, I probably would have made the Beautiful Awakening album maybe years ago. And not to say that I'm not happy with my previous projects because, they brought me where I am today. But this album, the whole creative process was just me and the producers. And that's definitely the way I prefer to make music. Not because I want to shut anybody out, but just because it creates so much more creative freedom and like vulnerability in the studio, which is so vital.
I read somewhere that Neville has worked on this album with you, someone who you got on with very well. Yeah. Who is he?
Novel is actually a producer who I met in Atlanta, and they were working in the same studio. And basically, I went into the kitchen to get some coffee, and there's a studio off the kitchen that Novel was working in, and he was making this beat and it was just really hot. So I went in there and said, this track is amazing. What is this for? And he's like, oh, I'm just messing around. I said, really? I said, can I have it? Can I write to that? And he said, are you serious? I was like, yeah, really. And he said, sure. So I asked him to come into the session with me in Dallas so that we could all write together. And we just totally hit it off. I always joke with him and tell him, like, if I were a man, like, I would be you, because we're just so similar. Like, well, he's like the male version of me. I mean, just unbelievably talented. He sings and raps and produces and writes, and he's got his own record actually coming out this year as well. I think he's going to do really well. But yeah, we just really hit it off, and the music that we wrote together and the stuff that he produced for my album just kind of set the tone for the rest of the album of just being more soulful and more kind of organic, and the vocals being less overproduced, just kind of more mellow and just honest, I think, really.
Did you work with him on all of the tracks?
No, he didn't do everything. He did a good majority of the album, though.
What influences would you say that you and Novel shared?
Both of us grew up listening to a ton of old soul and jazz and Motown and stuff like that. And that was kind of where our original inspiration came. And it's funny because for me, if you ask most of my peer artists, young female artists in the pop music today, if you ask them what they grew up listening to, they say Janet Jackson and Madonna and stuff like that. And those artists are amazing, but I was not familiar with them at all until I was probably 12 or 13. Up until that point, I only listened to like black gospel music and Ella Fitzgerald and Aretha Franklin and like Stevie Wonder and Donny Hathaway. That was all the music that I knew. And Novel was the same way. So we have such a deeper appreciation for like the passion and the emotion and the soul in music beyond just like writing a great, pop song. So
can you still appreciate current music that you hear on the radio and artists that are hitting it off big time now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I really genuinely love music. I mean, you go through my music collection and, it's everything from, an artist named Mahalia Jackson, who probably most people, unless you maybe grew up in the old, like, black gospel type church, you probably would have never heard of, to, Christina Aguilera. I buy her records. You know what I mean? So I definitely, I listen to everything. I love music, and I don't have any issues with appreciating pop music, because I think that we have some great music today that will probably be around in 20 years as well.
So how would you describe the Beautiful Awakening album? Would you say it is a gospel album or a soul album? What does it represent to you?
I'm a pop artist, I think that it's not to be confused that I'm like not trying to make pop music anymore. It is pop music, but